So we have whips and we have FOs, and I know there are some people who have UFOs, which are projects that have been put aside and don't really count as whips anymore. But I would really like to come up with some acronym for things that are just about finished. So, just about finished objects, JAFO, or almost finished objects, AFOs, or owls, so only weaving left, something like that. Because I've got a big owl this week. I'll see you on the other side. Welcome, everyone, to episode 23 of Gary Knits, Gary Rides, a Craftivism podcast at the intersection of making things and doing good. My name is Gary. You can find me on social media on Instagram at Gary Knits, Gary Rides, and on Ravelry as Gary Knits and Rides. I'm a knitter. I am also a crocheter and a cyclist with AID's Lifecycle, an annual 545-mile bike ride from San Francisco to Los Angeles, funding the life-saving work of the San Francisco AIDS Foundation and the Los Angeles LGBT Center. The ride just wrapped up earlier this month, so I'm kind of in a resting period until we kick off fundraising for next year in August. As part of my fundraising, I run a series of Knitalongs and Crochetalongs that I call the End AIDS Knitalongs and Crochetalongs. We have one running right now that I'm going to talk about in just a little bit. I also run an occasional fiber auction called D-Stash for Good. It has been a really nice couple of weeks getting back into the normal flow of things after AIDS life cycle. I've taken it easy. I have had gone back to the gym a little bit, but I haven't gone back on the bike. That'll probably happen in the next week or so. But because I am not training my butt off for for the ride, I have had a lot more time for crafting. So last episode was very heavy on the craftivism side of things because there were so many really cool things going on in the fiber community around pride and fundraising, skeins, and things like that. So we showed off a lot of that. This week is going to be very heavy on the knitting and crocheting side, as well as acquisitions, because some of those pride fundraiser skeins made it to my house, and so I'm going to show off some of that. In terms of what's been going on with me in the last couple of weeks, we had Father's Day, so my folks and my in-laws came over, we grilled, we had a really nice afternoon. The weather's been very pleasant here. I really feel for those of you, especially in the southern half of the country, who are suffering right now through this crazy heat wave. I grew up in Texas, so I know what that feels like, and it is not pleasant, at least for me. I am not a summer person. I do not love the hot weather. So we have had really quite lovely weather. We barely break 70 degrees. In fact, today I think we barely broke 60 degrees. But the fog and the overcast skies have left us, at least for this week, so we've had some sun. So that's been nice. So that was a lovely Father's Day. We had dinner with a couple of friends of ours who had just gotten engaged, so that was really exciting. Did a little bit of theater, and like I said, I've done a lot of crafting over the last couple of weeks, which I can't wait to show you. Also did some planning for some upcoming trips. I've mentioned, I think, before that I am planning to go to Rhinebeck this year for the first time ever, even though I've been knitting for 20 years and lived in New York for a good part of that. I never really knew Rhinebeck existed. I mean, I knew the city existed, but I didn't know the event existed. And so I never made it up there. So this year, a group of us have gotten a house, and we're going to head to Rhinebeck and to the other events that are going up there this weekend. The reason I mention that is just that the Indie Untangled tickets went on sale, I think it was last week. And because they are timed tickets, we wanted to make sure that everyone in our group was able to get into the same session. And it was like Taylor Swift tickets went on sale for the knitting community. There was like logging in, like right as things went on sale, and then there was like this waiting room situation, and Ultimately, we were able to get the tickets we wanted for our group, but there were several of us trying and lots of texting back and forth about where we were in the queue. So that's going to be a lot of fun, and we're just now waiting for Woolen Folk and Cakepalooza tickets to go on sale. But before I go to Rhinebeck, I made the decision to go up to Seattle for Flock, which is the fiber festival up there. Since we lost Stitches West with the Stitches dissolution, I thought it would be fun to check out a fiber event on the West Coast. So I'm really looking forward to being there, get to see some friends of mine. I'm gonna actually, I think, help set up a booth and maybe do a meet and greet in one of the booths. And I'm already talking with a couple of other podcasters to maybe try to get together for dinner. So that's gonna be really fun to try to make some of those connections for folks out here on the West Coast. So that's coming up at the first week in August, so I'll have plenty of time to talk about that and maybe preview some of the things that I'm looking forward to there. So that's kind of what's going on last couple of weeks, but without further ado, let's get into some knitting content. As I mentioned, we are in the midst, exactly halfway point of the End AIDS Knitalong and Crochetalong Pride 23 edition. That kicked off June 1st. It will go through July 31st. I'm going to show my projects here in a minute, but we are working on a garment on the crochet side, the In the Forest of the Night cardigan by Desimore Designs, and on the knitting side, the Pin Up Rainbows shawl from Whimsical Wood Yarn Co. So it is the halftime portion of the knit-along, so that means giveaways. And if you're watching this on Friday the 30th, you have until 8 p.m. Pacific time to get your photos uploaded to either Instagram or to Ravelry. If you're going on Instagram, use these hashtags. Ravelry, there's a chatter thread. Just post your progress photos there or your FO photos in the FO thread to get entered into this round of giveaways. If you'll pardon my reach. We have 4 prizes for the halfway round. For crocheters and knitters, 1 each, I have a skein of the Pride colorway from Monica at Up North Yarns, along with some adorable little stitch markers there. This is her fingering 8515 base, 438 yards per 100 grams. So the knitters will get 1 and the crocheter will get 1. Along with those, I will throw in, just because they're fun and it's Pride, some stitch stoppers. The rainbows are from Laura at Always Be Kind Yarn, and the Progress Pride flags are from Ginger Snap That. So those will be the prizes for the halftime giveaways, and then the last rounds of giveaways will happen at the end of the knit-along at the end of July. Some really amazing prizes coming, so I will show those on the next episode. In terms of what I have been working on, obviously, I have been working on the Knit-along and the Crochetalong project. Let me show you the Crochetalong first. I just picked this back up again just in the last couple of days. This is where I am on, I should mention what I'm wearing. This is last year's Pride Crochetalong project. This is the Ellie Rue shawl by Shelby Shays Stitches, and the kits were put together by my buddy Caitlin at Porter Wool Co. in her neon rainbow minis with this speckled off-white with the rainbows as the main color. This is a ton of fun to crochet. It's gigantic, and it's very, very summery. So I love that. So anyway, that is last year's Pride Crochetalong. This year's Pride Crochetalong is the In the Forest of the Night cardigan. This is where I am. So you crochet a very large panel which wraps around. It is an open front cardigan. I am 1 pattern repeat away from, basically it then splits into 3 little panels that come up over the shoulders. I'm making this for my sister. This is being done in Fully Spun's Majestic colorway. It's a 50-50 cotton wool blend DK weight. I'm making this for my sister, and I had gotten not quite this far, but when I went to Maryland for Maryland Sheep and Wool, took it with me. We sort of sized it up, and we decided that she would prefer a little bit longer than the way the pattern is written for her size. So I'm going to do one more pattern repeat and then split into the panels for the sleeves. It's moving very quickly. Like I said, I kind of put that on hold for the last month or so while I was wrapping up my training for the AIDS Lifecycle and working on one of the other projects I'm going to show you. So I'm happy to be working on that again. It works. I'm always so happy when I pick up a crochet project and I forget how fast it works up relative to knitting. And so there's just that sense of accomplishment that you get by working up so fast. So hopefully I'll finish that last pattern repeat in the next couple of days, and then be able to move on to finishing up that thing. So I don't think there's really too much more to do once I get that big back panel, because that's the bulk of the garment. So that'll be my first crochet garment ever. I'm really excited, and I think my sister's probably going to come out to visit sometime in the fall, and I can give it to her then if I don't mail it to her. Let's see if maybe try it on before I hand it over permanently to her. So we'll see what happens. So that is the crochet along project. It's been interesting to see all of the different variations that folks have been working on. Some people doing a solid color, other variegated colors as well. So that's one of the things I love about running the Knitalongs and the Crochetalongs, is just kind of seeing what everyone does. Speaking of which, here's my in this really beautiful yarn bowl. KOIK, turn it over, is the potter. A friend of mine just gave me this, and I think he's friends with her, and it's really, really sturdy and nice. But living in there right now is my pin-up rainbow shawl with the aforementioned Progress Pride stitch stoppers from Ginger Snap That. So here's where I am. This is the front. I have my little progress keeper there from where I was last time we spoke. So I've made, I don't know, 5 or 6 inches of progress, made a lot more of the little rainbows, and am getting more comfortable with the process of making them and then pinning them up. But I was saying that one of the fun things about doing the Knitalongs and Crochetalongs is seeing all of the variations that people come up with for the various projects. And this one I think has probably had more variations and riffing done than any of the projects we've worked on so far. So some people found the rainbows either difficult to make, or they were perfectionists and didn't like that some were a little lopsided or a little scrunched up. I've kind of let go of that for this project for whatever reason. Usually I would be that person that has to redo it until it's perfect. And so some folks have taken and done other little assigned pooling stitches. So I know some people were using, I think it's called the floret stitch from Barker Wool, that made a really, really cool shawl. One of the folks in our Zoom group has done kind of a sampler of a bunch of different assigned pooling stitches. She's turned the shawl into a cowl, and then has a kind of creating her own pattern as she goes in terms of which sections have which assigned pooling stitches. And some people are just leaving the colors unstitched in terms of a special stitch, and just doing it with a garter or stockinette, as you kind of have seen, as you kind of get in here. But I'm really really enjoying this this project. I think once you get the hang of the rainbows, it's just really fun. It's one of those kind of like self-striping sock yarn projects where you just kind of want to keep going to get to the next. Either you're making a rainbow, so here's where you've made the rainbow, where it's just these bars, and then later on in the process you pin it up. And so there's just that kind of potato chip of just one more row, because I know I'm going to get to make a rainbow, or I know I'm going to pin up a rainbow, and want to see how that looks. So I've had a lot of fun. I got this section here of the pooling, and having talked to other people, it seems to happen a bit. You can't really make a rainbow right at the edge of the shawl, so you have to just kind of let that go. I wasn't loving how that was looking. I know this is going to get much bigger, and it's not going to really be as prominent as it is here. But then I did get to the point where I got to make this little rainbow here, and it kind of looks like a rainbow popping out of like a rainbow lake. So I thought that was kind of cool. Anyway, Pinup Rainbow Shawl by Whimsical Wood Yarn Co. The yarn is also from Samantha at Whimsical Wood. This was a special colorway she did for our for the Knitalong. But again, I'm really enjoying this process, and really makes me want to do some more assigned pooling stuff down the road. And I have some yarn in the mail coming that will allow me to do that. So that is the Pinup Rainbow Shawl for the Knitalong. I mentioned that I had a owl, an only weaving left, an AFO, a just about finished object, and that is the big project that I've been working on for several months now, and that is the Windy City blanket from Pearl Soho. Here's a little video. I laid it out. I couldn't bring it in. It's too big and cumbersome and bulky. So I laid it out on the bed and took some video of it. But it's been a really fun project. It's modular. You knit triangles that then get joined together to make squares, and it is a join as you go project, but there's still a bazillion ends to weave in. And you may have seen in the video there that where you have 4 squares come together, you often end up with a kind of a gappy hole that's going to need to be sewn up. Sorry. That is all done in Malabrigo Rios, which is the first time I've worked with it, and is really lovely to work with. The main color is ivory. The blue is called Lobo Merino. The burgundy maroon is Santa Rita, and then the gray is called Rio de la Plata. So those are the 4 colors. This, as I have mentioned before, was a graduation gift. The graduate picked out the pattern and picked out the colors. So I think she will be very happy with it. It's because it's garter stitch, it's just really squishy, soft, cozy, cuddly blanket. I can't wait to finish up the ends here in the next couple days, block it, and get it into the mail to her. And I think I have a couple-year break in the graduation blanket manufacture timetable. I don't think there's another one coming for at least a couple of years. But I've had fun. Doing them. I do think that crochet is probably, not only does it work out faster, but you get a reversible blanket. As much as I loved the way that this looked on the front side, and I did one for one of my nieces in the modern daily knitting log cabin pattern, because it's garter stitch. The reverse side is not as nice, not as nice looking. So I think for the next one, I'm going to try to convince the young person to let me do a crochet project, or at least try to find one that's reversible, because I think that just looks nicer. But I've been thrilled to make these for these graduates. I hope they get a long use out of them. I know for me, some of my favorite things that I have around the house are Afghans and quilts that my grandmother made, and I've had them for 45, 50 years now. One of my favorite things is I have this scrappy granny square Afghan that I use in the winter when it gets cold. It's, from squeaky, scratchy acrylic yarn probably from Kmart, but I absolutely love it. So hopefully these blankets will have a nice long life and follow these kids through their college careers and beyond. So anyway, that is the Windy Day blanket from Pearl Soho in Malabrigo, Rios. As I said, I've had a lot of time to knit and crochet. I've had a couple of things where I've had to be in waiting rooms waiting for a while. And the Pin Up Rainbows shawl is as fun as it is to work on. It is not something that I can just kind of take and pick up and put down. I need to pay a little bit of attention. I need to pay attention when I'm making the rainbows and where I'm in the process. So that's not really a grab and go kind of project. So what I did was I picked back up, living in my Scrappy Angel Fox bag, truly one of my favorite bags, is my 2-in-1 socks from Sophia Talley, the Drunk Knitter. My progress keeper for, it's been several months since I think shown these, but I was down here on the first foot and finished up that first foot, did the can't believe there you can see it, but did the lifelines and the mark the spot to separate the socks, and I have now started on foot number 2. I'm about 3 inches into that, and I think that needs to be about 5.5 inches before I put the other marker for the second heel. So this is going to be my travel knitting. We going to concerts, on the bus, or driving in the car. Probably also going to be a fair amount of my TV knitting for a while, just because the crochet project is, for me at least, too intricate to try to do while I'm watching TV. I know I'll make mistakes and have to rip it all out, so I'm not going to do that. And likewise with the Pin Up Rainbow shawl, it's not really great for TV knitting. So I think it's going to be this. I would love to get these finished sometime this summer. I had a goal of making 3 pair of socks this year. I know people do socks really, really fast. I'm just not a fast sock knitter, and I have 1 pair finished, so this would be pair number 2. So I'm hoping I can get this done over the summer, watching TV. But I made a decent amount of. I worked on this last night, and I've made a decent amount of progress in just a night. But we'll see. It's just round and round and round. It is. I'm sorry. The yarn is Yarnaceous Fibers. It is her Salta fingering, and the color is called Spinosaurus Rex. And then this is the mini. This is the colorway Fog. That will be the heels and toes. So back into the Scrappy Angel bag. The other thing that can also be some TV knitting is a new start for me. Liz over at The Black Knitter is doing a Juneteenth make-along. It started earlier in the month. The only rules were that you needed to be using a pattern or yarn or a project bag or stitch markers from a black maker, and she has giveaways and things that she's been doing along the way. I didn't need to cast on a new project, but I did want to participate in her make-along, and I do need to have a single skein shawl project done by sometime late August, so I thought, why not cast on one for the Juneteenth make-along. This is, and I'll pop a picture of the finished pattern up here, but this is Pop Tart by Tammy Gore, and it is just a very nice, simple, mainly garter stitch, crescent-shaped shawl that then has this little window of lace there that then becomes a full lace panel. I honestly haven't looked too much farther ahead into the pattern to find out what happens next, but I think it probably goes back to this little square of lace and then maybe back to garter stitch. I think it ends with a picot edge. So this is going to be a gift for a friend of ours in Italy. Another friend of ours from Italy is coming in to visit us in August, and so I'm going to send it back with him for her. When we were in Florence last year, she owns a restaurant, and she treated us to a lovely dinner, and I was wearing my Pure Joy shawl from Hohilo Catelli, and she was admiring it, and I said, well, you know, I made it and I can make something like this for you, and asked her what her favorite color was, and she said it was blue. And so this is going to be a thank you gift for that lovely dinner for our friend in Florence. And I have these really adorable stitch stoppers. These I got at Yarn Centric as part of Maryland Sheep and Wool weekend, and these were from Fangirl Fibers. So Emily and Fangirl Fibers had these really cute little balloon dog animals, stitch stoppers. So that will be some more TV knitting, because this is definitely something I can work on in front of the television, as it is very, very simple. The yarn is a one of a kind. I think it was called Shark Boy by Carolyn Dick, C. Dick Designs, I think. It'll all be listed down below in the show notes. I will also pop again up here the QR code for the show notes, so that you can scan that if you are not watching this on a computer. You can scan it from your TV. So anyway, this is living in one of my other very favorite bags. Oh, I'm losing my shawl here. Which is a Beautiful Sister camo bag. So let's fix this. And I think that is it in terms of the whips. I do have a couple of FOs, kind of in reverse order here today, but I wanted to talk about the Knitalong, Crochetalong things up front. These I showed last time, but in some of the traveling around the last couple weeks, I was able to wrap these up. This is the Citrus Hat by Laura Treadway in Felici worsted from Knit Picks in the Time Traveler colorway. I mentioned it last time. I think this is going to be one of my go-to patterns for charity hats. This one's going to go to Knit the Rainbow, but it's just a really easy, fun pattern, fast, and very sort of forgiving for all kinds of head shapes. So again, Citrus Hat, Laura Treadway. The other one that I had finished up was the Bankhead Hat by Susie Gourlay. This is done in Always Be Kind yarn worsted. This is the Rainbow Confetti colorway. And I enjoyed this one as well. I think that the just that little detail of it's a broken rib. The purl stitch there in the gap is a broken rib stitch, and so I think that just that one little detail really makes it very interesting looking. Again, a very fast, very easy, fun pattern. Both of these are going to Knit the Rainbow. Back here with these other ones. That brings my Knit the Rainbow hat total to 5 for the year so far. Going to pause on making any more for the time being. My goal was to have 10 done, but because of some of the stuff that's coming for the Knitalongs and Crochetalongs in the fall, I'm going to be able to do some Knit the Rainbow work in the fall. So my traveling kind of grab and go projects for the time being then will be the socks and the Pop-Tart shawl. Until one of those gets finished, and then maybe I'll start another hat. I did, as you'll see, get a bunch of yarn for Knit the Rainbow projects. In terms of things that are coming up, one of the reasons I'm pausing on Knit the Rainbow hats for the time being is my mother has asked me to make for the community that she lives in, or she and my father live in. They call them twiddle muffs or fiddle muffs. They are basically tubes, or the ones that I have seen are tubes that you use a bunch of different yarns and different colors and textures and so on, buttons and things like that. And they are given to dementia and Alzheimer's patients to give them something to do with their hands that it seems to be sort of helpful in calming them down, etc. And so I found there's a lot of free patterns on Ravelry and online for variations on this. They're more of a recipe than a thing. And this one was from Maker's Mercantile, and it's basically like kind of like a sleeve. And you can make them kind of as wide as you'd like, and then you do ribbing and you do bobbles and you can do things like that. So I just got a bunch of in a D-stash, someone was doing a bunch of this sort of novelty yarn, this kind of like furry stuff that I would really never ever want to knit with myself. And then I'm going to mix it with some bulky weight Strava from Knit Picks. I have some buttons and things, and just kind of play around and see what comes of it. And then she has a knitting group. There is a knitting group in the community, but I think they just wanted one as a sample to see how the process was, see if it was a good pattern that they could easily replicate, and two, then to give it to the in the community. There is an Alzheimer's unit, and give it to them and just see if it's something that they think that they would be interested in having more of, and then maybe I can either go over there and walk the knitters through the process. And try to see if they can make some more for the community there. So that's going to be kind of, once one of these other projects gets wrapped up, that's the thing I'm going to grab and kind of do as my charity knitting for the time being, until I pick up hats again later in the fall. I do have a couple. I already mentioned FOs. The other thing that's coming up on the not on the needles, well, on the needle, I suppose, is a new craft for me. I have a sewing machine that I bought, I think maybe the first Christmas my now husband and I were together. I bought it as a gift for him, and then we were living in New York, and we took a sewing class that may have just been one session, maybe it was two, where they taught you how to use your sewing machine, and then we made like little pillowcases or something. And that was probably 12 years ago, 13 years ago, and it has not been unpacked, I think, more than once or twice since then. But I decided after several years of talking about it, I wanted to make something on the sewing machine. So one of the things, I said I was not a summer person, but one of the things I do love about the summer is going to concerts outdoors. And we enjoyed that in New York, where we had a fantastic series in Brooklyn at the Prospect Park Band Shell every summer. Here in Southern California, we are close enough to LA that we can enjoy the Hollywood Bowl. And our local NPR affiliate, KCRW, hosts a series of 6 concerts that are very, very eclectic. One of them is always a reggae night, and then there's just bands that some of whom I've heard of, some of whom I'm not. You never know what you're going to get until the show's announced and you've already gotten your tickets. But at your seats at the Hollywood Bowl, they have these little pop-up tables where you can bring a picnic or food or whatever, or you can order it there if you want to, but we always bring it. But they have these little tables that pop up in your booth, and you can put everything out of there. But they don't have placemats, and the store-bought placemats are not the right size because the tables are a little bigger than that. So I said, one of these days I'm going to make custom placemats for our Hollywood Bowl table. So this year I'm going to do it. So I went to Joann and I bought some fabric. This is going to be reversible. It is a super simple, I think, pattern. I have a YouTube video tutorial, and I've forgotten the woman's name. I will link it down below. That's basically, she has a series of learn to sew videos. I've watched the one I'm making. The first lesson is making reversible placemats, so that's how I found it. And my mom is an expert quilter, so I'm going to go over to her place sometime in the next week or so, and she's just going to be sitting over my shoulder watching me and making sure that I'm not doing anything crazy. So went to Joann, and I got two fabrics. So this is one of them, and this is the other, giving me real summer watermelon vibes. The plates, we have a little picnic basket, and the plates are like these very bright stripes, and then one has like little bullseyes, so it'll all be sort of very mix and match, but these sort of bright summery colors. So I got some interfacing, and I'm going to pack up the little sewing machine, take it over to Mom's, and we are going to make some placemats. So if that goes well, the plan will then be actually the next lesson in the how to sew tutorial lessons is making cloth napkins with a mitered corner. So if all goes well on the placemats side of things, the next project is going to go back to Joanne and buy some more crazy wild colored fabric and make a set of cloth napkins for the picnic basket. So I do not think this will become a sewing podcast, but I am excited after many years dusting off the sewing machine and trying my hand at that. We have like a whole little like sewing table that we had made because we always thought, oh, we'll just in the den we'll have this little table and we can pop up the end and use it to sew things, and never has it happened. So next time, hopefully I will have some placemats to show you. So that's it in terms of the actual making side of things. A lot got worked on, and hopefully in the next few weeks, one of these things will get finished up. I'm barely into that pinup rainbow shawl, the first skein, and it's supposed to be a 2-skein project. We're going to just have to see how big it gets. And it's one of those I think you can kind of quit at any time. So I may not make it through the entire 2 skeins of that. But hopefully one of these will get finished up in the near term. I also said there's been a lot of acquisitions over the last couple weeks. I bought I bought several of the Pride themed yarn skeins and yarn things from the last episode that I mentioned that were all fundraisers for various charities around Pride, and some of that has started to come in. So I thought I'd show a couple of those, and then the rest of the stuff that came in. First, though, I should mention that I did get something in for heart mail and booty stash enhancement. So heart mail being gifts that people send for giveaways for the Knitalongs and Crochetalongs. Booty stash enhancements being things that I purchase for giveaways for the Knitalongs and Crochetalongs. Lila Styles, Angelica at Lila Styles was having a big sale on her accessories, including yarn cozies. And so I went through and picked out a bunch of different patterns of yarn cozies, some like Halloween-y ones, some disco glitter ones, some Island of Misfit toys from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And then Angelica threw in a couple extras as gifts to throw into the giveaway pile. So these will become part of the season 3 giveaways. Usually I like to start each Knitalong and Crochetalong with one of these as the part of the first round giveaways. So thank you, Angelica, for that. And look for those in the future. In terms of acquisitions for just myself, the first thing was from Black Sheep, which is Black Sheep Berkeley, which is a local yarn store up in Berkeley, California. Their in-house dyer, who is Sarah. The label says Purple Prickle Dye Works. That is not her Instagram handle, but these were part of their Pride collection at Black Squirrel Berkeley, and they were donating portions of proceeds from the sales of this the Pride collection to the Trans Health Legal Fund. This, which I got on the mohair silk, the colorway is Category Is. And I'm thinking I'm just going to pair this with like some sort of off-white neutral and maybe make a really fun hat or cowl with that. The other one is this very dark black base with sparkles. And then I haven't unwound it. I don't know if this would work for planned pooling because it looks like it, or assigned pooling. It looks like it could work, but then there's some other colors down here, so I'm not sure. This one is called Silence. Oops, Silence equals death. Maybe I need a pair of sparkly black socks with these. So that was from Black Squirrel Berkeley. The other thing that has come from my Pride spending spree is this amazing yarn from Pretty Twisted Yarns, Teresa of pretty twisted yarns. Dyed this up. I'm going to post a picture of it here, of it knit up as socks, because you don't get it just in the skein, but it creates this fabric, at least in the socks, and I hope that it does for other things as well, that really creates this sort of like tie-dye effect. It's called I Would Tie Dye For You, EWE. This I got on the DK Herposh DK base, which is 8015 merino nylon, 246 yards per 100 grams. I got 2 skeins of this, and I'm going to keep one for myself, but I'm going to give one of these away to a subscriber. So if you are a subscriber and you would like to be in the drawing for this, I will keep it open until I film the next episode, which will be in 2 weeks. Just leave a comment down below that includes the word Trevor, because $5 from each skein of this that Teresa sold was being donated to the Trevor Project. So drop a comment down below with Trevor in it, and if you're also a subscriber, then you will be entered into the drawing. I will reach out to you, and I will announce the winner on the next episode. So those are the ones that the things that I got for, technically for Pride, that were fundraising yarns. I think, as I mentioned before, I'm trying to, you won't believe it, but I'm trying to get the stash managed. But I am always going to try to be supportive of other people's fundraising around causes that I care about. And so there were so many really amazing Pride fundraisers that went out there, and so I did go out and buy some of those yarns, some of which I'm going to keep, some of which I'm going to give away. A couple things I'm going to put into the D-Stash sale, so you will see some of that coming up down the road. I said this last thing is not really technically Pride, but a couple weeks ago, Knitpicks posted a picture with a bunch of free patterns for all the different Pride flags, or many of the different Pride flags, and they got a lot of grief from hateful people on the internet. My little, I don't know, 15 skein order is not going to make or break Knitpicks, but I did want to, in my order, put in a comment sort of thanking them for being visible and representing and all of that. And they were having their annual or semi-annual yarn sale where you can get some really, really amazing bargains on yarn. And so I thought, well, I'm going to be making hats for Knit the Rainbow all year this year and for many years to come. So I might as well grab some yarn on sale, give them a little, pat on the back for being supportive of the community during Pride, and having to wade through all the nasty comments that they got in their Instagram feed. I mean, I say all of the nasty comments. There were a handful. By and large, the vast majority, as with all things, are people being supportive of them being supportive. So anyway, I got a bunch of stuff from Knitpicks. I'm going to go ahead and show it because it's all pretty fun. It's stuff I kind of used the sale to try things, some of their yarn that I have never used before, and I have to say I'm really pleased with what I got. The first one I've used many times. In fact, I just showed something I used for, but it's the Felice worsted. So this is the worsted version of their self-striping sock yarn. This one is called Double Dog Dare, and this one is called Friendly Skies. So I got a couple skeins of each of these. Make great hats, and just a really fun way to include some color that you don't have to do any work for. Similarly, I've not used this particular yarn. This is their Chroma Twist. So it is a color changing yarn. This is bulky weight. So you get that color changing. This color is called Hollyhock, and the blue is called Weather Vane. But I figure I could get a hat out of each of these skeins, a little heavier weight. But I've not used the Chroma Twist before. I have used and got some more of just their Chroma, which is their worsted weight. This color is called Ponderosa. This is 70/30 superwash wool nylon, and it has a bit of a, you can see it there, but it has a bit of a halo. I've made, a couple years ago, I made my runcible hat out of a gray version of this, and I like the little fuzz, the little bit of a fuzz that you get to it, and so I thought this would be a pretty fun neutral color. Trying to mix it up for Knit the Rainbow with some fun colors, some more neutral colors. I know that Austin at Knit the Rainbow has said, they often get, because these items are being donated to homeless LGBTQ plus youth, given the nature of the organization, they tend to get a lot of, kind of rainbow colored things. And he said that oftentimes kids who are living on the street or people who are experiencing housing scarcity don't want to draw a lot of attention to themselves. And so the bright colors, while they may be fun for us to be knitting, are not always the things that the folks want. So I thought I'd mix some more neutral stuff in there as well. The other one, and I have to say, this one's probably the most impressive thing that I got, just because of how soft it is, and it's really, really nice looking. This is their provincial tweed in worsted weight, 250 yards per 100 gram. This colorway, oh, it's just called cream, sorry. And it's 80% superfine Highland wool, 20% Donegal tweed. But it's really, really soft. And I think this colorway is, I would totally wear a hat made out of this. So that was I only got one skein of it. I wish I'd gotten more. And then the other thing I got, which is something I also had never tried before, has these great kind of heathered colors. This is their Upcycle alpaca blend. It is worsted weight, 219 yards per 100 grams, 33% alpaca, 34% wool, 33% acrylic. So it's very soft, has a bit of a halo from the alpaca, but just comes in this really great kind of heathery set of colors. So I grabbed a bunch of, I can't remember, these were like $2.99 or something. It was like, so I thought that these would be really nice hats as well for folks. Not machine washable, which is also something I should probably think about as I make these hats. Is that probably the best fibers are going to be either superwash or acrylic. So that was my knit picks. Kind of grab a bunch of stuff at their sale to be ready for all of the accessories making for Knit the Rainbow through this winter. I don't know if I'll get through all the yarn this winter, but in the next couple of years, I probably will have made plenty of things for Knit the Rainbow. The last acquisition that I got was a big one for me. I could not be more thrilled with it. I'm going to have to lean over here to grab it. So give me a second. As you have heard me say before, Jake at Ken Yarn is getting out of the dyeing end of his business and focusing on pattern making and some resin buttons and some other fun stuff, I'm sure. For his last collection, he did a collection inspired by Steven Universe. And if you're not familiar with Steven Universe, it is a animated series. I think it was originally on Cartoon Network. Right now it streams, the whole thing streams on HBO Max, aka whatever they're going to change their name to next week. And I had watched early seasons of it a while back. I really, really enjoyed it. It's just a very, very sweet series about chosen family, and there are a lot of like LGBTQ sort of allegories in there, about a series of aliens who have come to Earth, and a little boy who is basically under their care. And set in like a beach town in Delmarva. And it is very funny, very sweet, surreal in places, but just a lot of really great messages. I think it's 5 seasons. They're like 9 minutes per episode, so you can get through them very quickly. Anyway, he put together a series inspired by Steven Universe, and he knocked it out of the park. So it's one of those occasions where I've seen a collection, and I'm like, I really want all of the things, and so I got one of each of the skeins and a couple of. On one color, I got 3 to make a Stephen West shawl out of it. But I'm just going to walk you through them because he did such an amazing job. I think I've said it before, but Jake has such a great eye for taking a theme and running with it in terms of colorways. So this is the Steven Universe collection from Jake at Kin Yarn. Definitely went out with a bang in terms of the dyeing. So this one is the Steven colorway. All of the most of the characters have something to do with gems. They're called gems, the race of space aliens, and Steven has a gem that is this rose quartz color. So that's the pink. This is, and these are in no particular order, but this is lapis for lapis lazuli. Oops, maybe that's something on the keyboard. This is one of the other gems. This is pearl. And I've been holding off putting these into the plastic bins because I don't have, except for the one that I'll show you in a minute, I don't have plans for any of them. But he did such a good job of, like, a lot of these, almost all of them can be mixed and matched together. So there's going to be some fun project that I'm gonna figure out to use these, because I think so many of them go so well together. This is Yellow Diamond, who is voiced by Patti LuPone in the show, and is close to a villain, I would say, in the show as you get. This is Peridot, which obviously goes really, really well with the Yellow Diamond, and Peridot is tied to Yellow Diamond in the show. Then this is Jasper. It's probably the other closest thing to a villain that you get in the show. He did 2 tonals, kind of representing places in the show. So the sandy one is Beta Kindergarten, and then this seafoam greeny kind of color is Beach City, which is the town where the show is set. And then one of the other main characters is Amethyst. I actually have a set from Valkyrie Fibers, a set of Amethyst self-striping yarn. So you can see 2 different interpretations of the same character from the show. And then probably my favorite gem is Garnet, who is a fusion of ruby, the red, and sapphire, the blue. And then the last 2 is Rainbow Quartz, which ties in some of Steven and some of Pearl. And then Bismuth. And this is the one that I got 3 of. And this is going to be a Stephen West shawl. I'm not entirely sure which one yet. I'm kind of leaning toward Herbivore to slate this for the larger size. I think Herbivore comes in a couple sizes, and I think I'm going to try to do the large one. It probably won't take all 3 skeins. I think you can probably do it with 2. So that is all of the Steven Universe yarn from Ken Yarn, and that is the end of the acquisitions for this week. I don't think I have too much more yarn coming in the near future. I do have some bags I'm really excited to show next time. Hopefully they'll be here in the next few days. That will be a combination of things for me to use as project bags, and then things to go into the giveaway pile for next year's Knitalongs and Crochetalongs. So with that, I'm going to move on to Craftivism, as I always do. There are a couple things that I want to talk about, and then I have a very special interview with a guest that I sat down and spoke with earlier this week. So on the Craftivism side, two quick things. Many of you may know that Terry and Brian at at Haynes House, the indie dyers, have opened up a brick and mortar local yarn store in Maryland called Gathering Yarns. And as part of that, they want to have a little lending library of craft books that customers can come in and check out, take home, play around with, and then bring them back in. So just kind of like those little mini libraries, but just for crafting books. So if you have crafting books, knitting, crocheting, since it's a local yarn store, I probably would say knitting and crocheting would be the main things that they're looking for, that you would be willing to part with, that you're not using anymore, rather than take them to your local library to donate. You can donate them to Gathering Yarns. The address for the store is listed in the show notes below. I spoke with Terry, and she said you can just send the books to them there, and they will put them into a little lending library so that folks in their community can check them out and try some new things. The other thing is another bicycle ride. So this one is in Canada. It's called the Friends for Life Bike Rally, and it is like AID's Lifecycle but for Canada. It runs from Montreal to Toronto, I believe, or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe it's Toronto to Montreal. And unlike AID's Lifecycle, they have different links. You can do like a 1-day ride, a 3-day ride, a 6-day ride. But Indigo Dragonfly Studios in Indie Dyer up in Canada has, for I think the last 12 years, made a special skein that is a fundraiser for a team of riders to help fund their Friends for Life bike rally. So here's a picture of this year's fundraising skein. It is called Feels on Wheels, and a portion of the proceeds of the sale of that yarn will go to this team of bikers, which includes, I believe, Stephanie McPhee, Yarn Harlot. So she's been doing the ride with, I think, some friends of hers for several years. And so Indigo Dragonfly sells this yarn as a part of a fundraiser for that team. So that is fantastic. It would be a really fun ride I don't know anything about the terrain between Toronto and Montreal, but I love the idea of doing a 6-day bike ride up in Canada. That sounds really cool. So those are just some two quick little Craftivism ideas for this week. And now I would like to introduce you all to Bryn of Bryn Knits. He is also known online as Bryn the Cable Guy on Instagram. And he has put together a really cool project for bringing knitters from around the world together to knit on a project in support of a charity that is helping kids in the war zone in Ukraine. And so I sat down with him earlier this week, had a conversation, learned more about this project and how we can all get involved to help him raise as much money as possible. So I'm going to turn it over to the pre-recorded video now. Hello and welcome. I want to thank Bryn, who is Bryn the Cable Guy on Instagram, for joining me today to talk about a really cool project that he has cooked up with some of his friends around the world. But before we get into that, maybe just a little bit of background. I always like to get people's sort of fiber origin story in terms of how you got started in the fiber world and what you've been doing there.
Yeah, for sure. So it's kind of wild. So before I moved out to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan last year, and I used to live in Washington State. I was a conservation officer out there, and I was in that job for 6 years. And towards the end of my career, I was really starting to struggle with PTSD. I'd responded to a lot of like pretty traumatic incidents. I was stationed on the beach, so I mean, you
Okay.
can imagine there's
Right.
a lot of drownings and whatnot.
Sure.
And like my life was just like super anxious. I'd come home from work every day and just like be super irritable and get all these like flashbacks. And yeah, I was having a really hard time. And my wife, for my birthday one year, she um tried to like get me like a little care package of stuff that might help me reduce my stress. I remember there's like a puzzle, some Legos, and a ball of yarn and needle.
Oh,
And
wow.
so So like, oh, let me try this out. And for whatever reason, it just like really clicked with me, like the whole knitting operation. And I remember I just knit my first scarf. Um and as soon as I started getting into it, I just felt like this kind of peace, and all of like the trauma at work and whatnot, I was just focused on one stitch at a time. And so
Right.
I'd bring my knitting with me in my patrol vehicle, and if I got like a super stressful call, like on my way back from like, jail or whatever, I'd pull over and I'd like knit a few rows just to kind of calm me down.
Right.
And so, I mean, knitting, I mean, it's obviously a great way to cope with mental health, but it's not like the end all be all.
Sure.
And I was still starting to lose my battle with PTSD, so I just kind of pulled the plug on my career and
Wow.
moved out here to Michigan. And since I've lived out here, basically in the middle of absolutely nowhere, I've really been able to like focus and dial in and knitting, and I guess raising my daughter on the side as a stay-at-home dad.
Okay.
Um, yeah, that's basically it. I've just that's my origin story, and
That's
just kind of
amazing.
taken off from there.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know that, Michelle Obama and many other people have spoken about sort of the therapeutic benefits of knitting and just sort of doing things, doing things with your hands. I think in general, whether it's knitting or I have friends who do needlepoint or whatever. And I think it just, like you said, you can just focus on that one next stitch, or whatever. So about 2 years, 1 year? How long have you been doing?
I started in 2019,
Okay.
so
Okay.
whatever that math is, about four
Good.
years or
Okay.
so. So
Perfect.
relatively new to the knitting world. But just recently I've just kind of started making connections with other knitters through
Right.
Instagram. I'm not super like tech savvy and whatnot, but it's just kind of cool to become less solo and more of getting that kind of web of community. So
Right. And you said you live out in the middle of in the middle of nowhere. Is there a local yarn store anywhere nearby, or is everything you're doing sort of via mail?
it's all through the mail. Yeah, it's literally in the middle of nowhere. I have
Okay.
my nearest neighbors probably a couple miles away.
Okay.
So it's just us in this creepy cabin in the woods and just hoarding my knitting supplies like a psycho. So it's yeah, I don't know. It's fun, you get
It actually kind of is a fantasy of mine. Is like if we could just like escape suburbia and like go into the mountains somewhere with a cabin where basically all that I have left is like my knitting supplies and access to the internet, so I could get Ravelry and get patterns and things like that. But
right. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it was always kind of like a dream. And my wife is super like way more impulsive than I am, so she's like, all right, let's just screw it, let's do it.
yeah.
So yeah,
And
so here I am sitting on
did
my
either of you have a connection to the Upper Peninsula or?
no, we I told her that I just wanted to get as far away from people as possible, and so we kind of just went on Zillow and threw a dart at a map
Okay.
and found this cabin over
Wow.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah, we just
that's nice. I mean, that's definitely an adventure in terms of just staking out and um, finding a new place. That's really exciting. Um,
yeah.
so obviously, I mean, as I said up front, you go by Bryn the Cable Guy on Instagram. So I assume that cables are something that you sort of found that
Yeah.
you enjoy doing, or
I'm all about the cables. Um, I don't know what it is. It's just super satisfying to see them come together, and
yep.
they're a lot easier than like they look really complicated, but I mean they're not too difficult. So I don't know. I pride myself on my cablery.
Now, are you team cable needle or team cable without a needle?
Oh, I'm team stick. So I'll
Okay.
like find like I'll be knitting on the beach or something. I'll find like a piece of driftwood and I'll just keep it with me for a while. So
Okay.
yeah,
I
maybe.
just started I did a project last year. Simple. I think 2/2 cables were the most it was. Maybe those are three. But I learned to do the simple ones without a cable needle. Now I'm not I
That's pretty intimidating. Like I'd be super nervous to
yeah,
try out.
there were a couple of now if you asked me to do it right now, I probably couldn't do it, but there were a couple of really helpful videos that sort of walk in and was had sort of a mnemonic that you kind of used to sort of remember what to do. It was like pass, slip, stitch. There was like kind of a little
Yeah.
run we did that I found really helpful. But
Oh, sweet.
I haven't done anything more ambitious than that. Although I have a project coming up in the fall that's a blanket that has, I think, a little more intricate cable work on it. So I'm looking
Heck
forward
yeah, nice.
working to diving into that.
Sweet.
So tell me about this project that you have cooked up, where the idea came from, and what it's all about.
Yeah, it just kind of it really started off as like a small little idea. I remember I was knitting at a local UP bar, and some of the guys there were kind of complaining about all their tax money going to Ukraine. And to me, in that moment, is just kind of it's been over a year since the Ukraine war started, and
Right.
it's people here are just super desensitized to it. I'm not sure if that's everywhere in the country, but I just kind of in that moment felt a bit hopeless and um, was kind of brainstorming if there's like any little thing I can do to help bring it back
Sure.
to the forefront of people's minds. And so I don't know. I just thought that here's an idea. I'll knit a scarf and I'll mail it to every single continent on the planet, and then we'll knit this scarf together in harmony and raise money for the war in Ukraine. So that was just kind of my buzzed little thought in that
Right.
bar one day. So it kind of evolved from there. I didn't have any knitting friends, so
Okay.
I just went on Instagram and um, kind of looked through my followers and creepily tried to select some people who I'd slide into their DMs and ask if they'd want to knit a
Right.
scarf with me.
Right.
So the first person I selected, her name is Maria, and she lives in Turkey, but
Okay.
she's from Russia, and
Okay.
her husband is Ukrainian and his family's Ukrainian. And
Ah,
so I just saw her profile, and I'm like, I'm gonna reach out to her first. So I sent her a message like, "Hey, you want to make a infinity scarf with me?" With obviously more details than that, and
right.
she was on board, which was really cool, and she was excited. So that was kind of like the catalyst or the spark that
Right.
that kind of motivated me. Like people actually might want to do this
Sure.
project.
Sure.
But yeah, before like just as a general overview of what the project is.
Yeah.
Um, so I recruited one knitter from every continent outside of Antarctica,
Right.
and we are all knitting about 18 inches of a scarf in any pattern of our choice.
Okay.
And then we're literally mailing it to the next person, and they're
Okay.
continuing that scarf. And it's going to be a blue and yellow, like scarf in support of Ukraine. The scarf's going to be like really epic. It already looks pretty sweet,
Yeah.
and by the end of it, it's gonna. I think we've got 7 countries total. It's gonna turn into an infinity scarf,
Right.
and we're gonna raffle it off. And 100% of the proceeds for this scarf are going to go to World Vision Ukraine charity.
Okay.
And a charity has a special place in my heart because all of um, part of the funds will go to providing mental health services for children in Ukraine who've been traumatized as a result of the war.
Right.
And, it just like digging into that charity more and the war in Ukraine, it just really blows my mind that these children have PTSD from the war. And
Sure.
that's something I've experienced, but I'm like a grown adult who
Right.
chose this
Right.
career, and it's just crazy that these kids who don't have like didn't choose to be involved in
Sure.
this war. So that's kind of why we're sending all the proceeds there.
Absolutely.
Um, but it's been a pretty logistical puzzle so far, um, in terms of figuring out shipping and making sure that the scarf doesn't get lost in
Right.
transit.
Yep. And yeah, I
But
can I can imagine having done a little bit of international shipping for prize giveaways and things like that. Really, really depends on the country, like,
oh
how
man,
reliable things are and like how much it's going to cost because shipping overseas can be crazy expensive as well.
yeah, when it traveled from Turkey to here, I was like clenching the entire time until I finally found it in my PO box.
Right.
But yeah, it started in Turkey with Maria, and then
Okay.
she knit her portion. I knit my portion about a month ago.
Okay, and
And
I should mention I'm going to throw up while we're talking throughout here. I'm going to throw up pictures from your Instagram account of like of the scarf and the
please,
different steps that that have been going on.
awesome.
But go ahead. Yeah,
I
sorry. So it
appreciate
came
it.
to you and you finished it up about a month ago.
Yeah, and I had a time crunch, so I wish I could have spent more time like taking pictures with it in all our cool areas of the UP, but I had to knit and mail this scarf in 24 hours.
Oh,
Um,
oh wow.
yeah, it was nuts. So that's because our South American knitter, her name's Vicky, she lives in Argentina, and her boyfriend lives about 2 hours south of me. And
Uh,
so he was going to go visit Vicky. So I had to knit the scarf and then overnight it to Vicky's boyfriend. And then Vicky's
right.
boyfriend the next day is flying to
Oh my gosh.
Argentina. So yeah, it was
Well, no
super
wonder
stressful.
you were stressed about it getting from Turkey to
Oh
you.
my
A day later and
goodness.
you would have been messed up. Yeah.
I know exactly. So yeah, it was just right on time, miraculously. Um, so right now it's in Argentina. Vicky, right now there's been a little bit of a lull in terms of how we've been advertising and promoting this project.
Okay.
Vicky's like wrapping up a really hard semester in school with her finals and whatnot, but she
Okay.
just finished, so we're gonna amp it right back up. When she's done, she's sending the scarf to South Africa, which is a little terrifying of a journey too.
Yes.
But our South African knitter, her name's Masala. And then once she finishes her portion, she's sending it to Lisa in Australia. Australia, Lisa is then sending it to Charmaine in Singapore. And then Charmaine is sending it to our most recent team member, Irina, and she lives in Ukraine. So the scarf is going to finish its
Oh,
project in Ukraine, which I'm really
nice.
stoked about. Um,
Yeah.
that's the journey. We've got 3 countries down and 4 to go, so
Okay.
we're on pace.
Well, hopefully no one has as tight of a window as, as you
Yeah, for
getting this done.
sure, for sure.
What is the expectation of when the scarf will be finally complete?
I'm tentatively thinking November. It would be great to finish it this year.
Okay.
Um, I don't have like a strict guideline just because life gets in the way of all these knitters
Sure,
across the world.
sure.
Most of them have more lives than I do. I just sit here in the woods all day, and
Right.
but it's all dependent on them. And but yeah, November-ish is when I'm hoping the raffle will happen. And obviously, I'll I'm not sure if you'd like the links to our official
Yeah,
Ukraine
absolutely. Well,
store.
I'll put links to everything in the show notes, but the raffle's available on your coffee page, yes? The raffle
Yes,
tickets. Okay.
correct. So we've got a coffee page, and that's where we're selling the raffle tickets.
Okay.
You can get a single raffle ticket for $5, and right now, if you buy one raffle ticket, your odds of winning the scarf are like pretty good right now because I haven't sold a ton of them. I'm
Okay.
still trying to gain traction on getting sales up.
Okay.
But yeah, there's different packages that you can get if you want multiple tickets. But yeah,
Okay.
just $5, and 100% of those proceeds will go to the World Vision Ukraine.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so it's in South America and then on to South Africa. My guess is that is probably going to be the challenging male,
That's the most
just based on
stressful.
my friends of mine who live in South Africa, who every year around the holidays, I'm like, I want to send you a Christmas card, and they always just laugh and just send us a digital copy. We'll
Right,
like we're
right.
never
I
gonna see
know.
it. So hopefully, fingers crossed on that.
For
So
sure.
you each are kind of coming up with your own pattern. So it's going to be kind of a patchwork thing. I guess it's a fixed number of stitches across or whatever.
Exactly.
I hope that your section was cables.
It was cables, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. And so yeah, I didn't give any like strict guidelines on what I want the scarf to be. I want each individual knitter to kind of bring their own flair to
Right.
it. Aside from like sticking to like reasonable shades of yellow and blue. Like we
Okay.
don't want any like neon blues or
Right. Right.
stuff
Right.
like that.
Right.
But yeah, each knitter they're being creative with how they want to approach it. And we're also doing a little knit along
Oh.
on our page. So
Okay.
we're starting to put up patterns of each section. So if anyone wants to
Oh,
like,
cool.
it's just right now. So we're not like collecting all the scarves and raffling those, but it's just kind of to spread the project further and
Sure.
um, see what an international infinity scarf looks like from their own
Right.
hands.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool. I mean, I know I've seen, versions of this with like quilters and things like that, where, people make blocks from all over the country or whatever. There's a podcaster or podcasters that I follow who just had a baby, and they were, soliciting little granny squares basically from all their viewers, and then one of them was going to knit it together or crochet it
Oh,
together
cool.
or to make a baby blanket for the expectant mother. So I just think it's a really cool idea to kind of build a community around this sort of like gradually growing project. So
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's been definitely challenging. It's been fun at the same time. Like right now, I've been kind of like throwing out some challenges. Like the first challenge I threw out, if we can raise $100 in 24 hours, I'll dye my hair blue and yellow. And
right.
I didn't think that would happen. So it did happen, and I have the blue and yellow hair dye. And my wife, I think we're gonna try to dye it tomorrow. So
Ooh. Well, I
yeah,
will definitely, if you post a picture of that, I will definitely put
yeah.
that up
So
here.
stay
So
tuned for that.
no,
But
I
yeah,
think that's a really awesome way to to try to drive a little extra traction to do things. I you could I mean, I've done similar things when I've been trying to promote something, is like do a little giveaway or do, have a little challenges along the way. I think that's a really fun way to kind of get folks involved.
for
Um,
sure.
I will link to you and all of the other knitters who are participating in that, as well as your coffee page, and a link to the charity, just so folks can do a little bit of reading on that. Any what I guess just another kind of unrelated question is, what are you working on right now that your scarf piece is done?
Yeah, so right now I'm working on my most ambitious project yet. So my wife and I, we got married almost 10 years ago, and we got married in a cubicle, and we didn't like do anything special. We were like in sweatpants and like greasy shirts. So 10 years later, my wife kind of realized that we want to do more of like a large celebration.
Oh,
And
okay.
so I'm knitting her wedding dress.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
so it's super ambitious, but like I haven't done lace knitting like this before,
Uh-huh.
and it's really frustrating. Like initially, but I'm starting to get into a groove.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm going all out on that, and I'm going to be posting progress pictures. But I haven't
What weight of yarn do you use? Is is it lace?
zero, so lace. Yeah, it's lace,
Lace?
lace.
Holy smokes. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
yeah,
Wow. That is ambitious.
yeah.
I
So I
mean,
hope she
I've
likes.
never even knit a
Um,
sweater, so I think, a full-size garment and laces, yeah, that's a pretty ambitious project. So
yeah, so
wow,
that's
well,
what
good
I'm
luck.
working on.
Do you know when the celebration is going to be?
Probably our 10 year is on February 17th,
Okay.
so I've got until then.
Okay.
I hope that's enough time, but I'm kind of a slow knitter. I never really learned how to do like all the different styles of knitting. I just kind of do caveman style. But yeah, I think I can pull it off.
Well, I know that because I've seen you on Arena's Fiber Chats channel, so I know that you're at least friendly with her, and she's the queen of lace. So I'm sure if you have any problems
Oh, cool.
along the
I'll
way,
have to reach out. Yeah, for
you
sure.
could reach out to her. Um, Thank you so much for sitting down and talking to me about this project. I wish you all the luck in the world. I think it's a really cool idea, and I look forward to following along. And hopefully, we can get some folks interested in sell some raffle tickets for you.
Hey, thanks so much, Gary. Really appreciate you using your platform to help me. It means a lot to me.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Anytime I can help, just let me know.
Awesome.
Thanks. So I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Bryn. He's such a great guy, and I think this is just a really fun project. Daunting in some ways in terms of getting that scarf all the way around the world, But I think it'll be really fun to raffle that off and to raise some funds for this very important important cause. So if you can, all the links to his coffee page and to his Instagram are listed down below. If you can chip in, that would be fantastic. I'd love to see this be a huge success for him. So with that, I want to thank you all for spending some time with me. If you've enjoyed this content, I would really appreciate it if you would hit the thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Share this channel with a friend so we can continue to grow this community. And I will see you in a couple of weeks. Thanks so much. Take care.